Welcome. Today I will be paraphrasing, summarizing, and sharing for the January 31st Al-Anon readings in Courage to Change and a little time for myself. We'll begin with the Serenity Prayer and 3 mindful breaths. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. I will take a moment to look this over. The question of the day is, what Al-Anon tools can I use when I feel overwhelmed? Such a great question for me today. The passage begins with this person when they came to Al-Anon. They were living with active alcoholism and they heard the slogan, "How important is it?" And they were kind of irritated by that because they didn't understand it, and it seemed like they wanted answers and they didn't have time to answer that question. But then they kept coming to meetings, and then they heard, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And this made more sense to them. And they could do business with that. They could figure out between being right or being happy. And then they were able to move on to the question, how important is it? Today's reminder reminds us that when things seem too overwhelming, we can break them down into smaller pieces. And the quote is from How Al-Anon Works for Families and Friends of Alcoholics. It says, breaking large projects and challenges down into smaller steps rather than trying to do it all at once can be very helpful. So what Al-Anon tools can I use when I feel overwhelmed? Well, for me today, I don't know if you can tell. I know I've been talking about it for quite a while, but I have a pretty magnificent specimen of an eye sty going on, and it is indeed infected. And I went to the eye doctor yesterday and I got an antibiotic, but it is not feeling any better so far. It's been I've taken 2 doses of my antibiotic. It's been less than 24 hours since I took my first dose. So when I don't feel well, I feel overwhelmed, and I had plans to get together with a very close Al-Anon friend earlier today, and when I woke up, I texted her and I said, I'm feeling very grumpy. I have this eye sty, and I'm not my best self right now. And she said, I love her so much. She said, I will honor whatever you want to do, but sometimes getting together with a friend is helpful and helps us to feel better. And I said, let's meet. Well, we met for coffee, but we talked for 3 hours, and we could have kept talking except that she had an appointment to get to. So we ended it at 3 hours. It was actually 2.5. 9, no, 10, 11, 12. Nope. It was actually almost 3.5 hours. And honestly, we never ran out of things to say. So I would add talking to Al-Anon friends as one of those things that helps me when I'm feeling overwhelmed. And it's funny because when I'm not feeling well physically, it kicks off this whole thing mentally and emotionally for me. And I can pretty much, I think I can pretty much break it down to resisting what is and fear rather than faith and love, trust and love, really. So when I think about that, I feel better, but uh, I guess I'm still working really hard to make that my default because it's really challenging for me. And my partner and I are going out with some very, very dear friends of ours tonight for dinner and listening to some live music, which is so good for us, so good to socialize with people that we love, and so good to do fun things. Uh, but I don't normally eat dinner, but I'm also not like completely rigid. It's okay. I'm really looking forward to going out, and and it will be fun. But I have to constantly, kind of fight against that, wanting to just isolate when I'm not feeling at my best. So, Al-Anon tools, going to meetings. I felt like I missed my normal meeting today, but I was with an Al-Anon person, and everything we were talking about was very Al-Anon. So I kind of feel like that was okay to do that. Uh, but definitely going to meetings, staying in touch with Al-Anon friends, my sponsor, and reading conference-approved literature, journaling, exercising, taking care of myself as far as what I eat, what I drink, getting enough sleep. Sleep has been a whole other thing for me because for many years I took medication to sleep, and within the past month or so I've weaned myself off. And so sleeping is a whole new adventure these days because it's not medically induced. It's just my body going to sleep. Um, but I feel like everything is progressing well. So I guess those are the tools that I can use when I feel overwhelmed. And like this passage says so nicely, breaking things down into smaller pieces is always helpful. So if I can't do the whole thing at one time, maybe I can do a small piece of it. And there's no shame in that. That's just moving forward in a way that works for me, and I think that's actually a sign of strength. So, moving on. I'll take a minute to look this over. All right, so after reading this passage, I realized that the Al-Anon tool that I did not mention from this reading is asking my higher power for help, which is exactly what this passage is about. It's funny, it came up while I was having coffee with my Al-Anon friend today, too. It came up several times. There's a reason it keeps coming up, because I need to do it. This person talks about how they were in Al-Anon for over a year, but they still found themselves lapsing into self-pity and resentments because they didn't feel that they were getting the emotional support that they wanted from their alcoholic loved one. But after a meditation on the 6th and 7th steps, this person realized that they were supposed to humbly ask him to remove the shortcomings, because that's in the 6th and 7th steps. I'll read the 6th and 7th steps right now. Okay, step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. So the passage goes on to say this person realized that they were, up until that point, relying on their own power, and that they, with humility, they asked the higher power of their understandings to remove their shortcomings, and it worked. So I guess they did this in the evening, and the next morning, their self-pity and resentment, both of those things were gone. Today's reminder says, our shortcomings will be removed. We can develop non-judgmental awareness of ourselves, be willing to change, but we can't heal ourselves. Only our higher power can do that. And the quote is from The Dilemma of the Alcoholic Marriage. And it says that we cannot be restored to sanity without help. And that help can be from our group, that help can be from our higher power. I find that the help is from both my fellowship, my higher power, all of it. So once again, I'm reading exactly what I need to hear. I just need to ask for help. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I can ask for it right now. Please help me. Please help me, Lord. Please help me, God. Please help me, higher power. And this is a good time to mention that your higher power can be anything. You can call it God. You can call it whatever you want. It can be whatever gender or no gender. It can change. Whatever works for you is perfect. And all we have to do is ask for help. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be more fancy. Sometimes I actually get down on the floor and pray and just say, please help me. But I say it with my whole body. There's no interference, because I'm literally on the floor communicating with my higher power. And my experience is that sometimes it's instant, sometimes it's over time, sometimes I hear something from another person shortly after I ask for help, or I see something, or things just look different to me, and I feel better. And I can't put my finger on exactly why, but I don't have to exactly put my finger on it. As long as I feel better, then I got the guidance and the help that I asked for. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. We'll close out with the Serenity Prayer and 3 mindful breaths. Here we go. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Sending you love. Take care.